Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the March 4th Salisbury City Council work session. We have three items on the agenda today, and we'll begin with the capacity fee waiver for 130 and 132 East Main Street. Ms. Pollock, how are you? Come on up. Do you have a cast of thousands, or is it just you?
Well, the applicant's here if there's any questions, but
Okay.
I'll leave that up to them if they want to come up. So this first one is a capacity fee waiver. We had recently granted a capacity fee waiver for 132 East Main Street, and since that time, the project has grown, and they were able to acquire 130 East Main Street as well. So this is a request to waive the capacity fees for the new portion of the project. So I'll back up a little bit. This is part of the EDU incentive area where we had a bank of 300 EDUs from Linens of the Week. So far to date, we had allocated 109 of those EDUs. So we're making our way through the 300. This incentive area is good until September 23rd, 2023. So we're in the last 4 years of it. For this specific project, the original waiver was 25.66 EDUs. They're asking for an additional 31.18 EDUs to complete the project. The value of the current request is $110,158. Total, we will have waived, if this goes through, we will waive 56.84 EDUs, which the total value of that for EDUs is $200,815. So again, we have the EDUs available. They do comply with all the requirements of the EDU incentive area.
Okay. Now, if 130, the original one that we did, we took action on that already, right?
We did. Yes, that passed.
So we have to do just that portion or do we have to start over?
What we were seeking was just to do the additional EDUs.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, we had
Okay.
a resolution already passed in November for
Right.
the first one, so this resolution is for the additional EDUs.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Amanda, just for council's benefit, I mean, if it's okay, I know this is a little outside of the scope of the, can we do a project like permitting update? Can you just quickly say like what it's already got, where it's at?
Yeah, sure.
'Cause this is just for everyone's benefit, this has been a very fast-moving, sticking to the timelines project. We know there are lots of projects that get off timeline, but this one has stayed really on track, so I think it's worth kind of hitting the update if you don't mind.
Sure, so, and I believe Nick or Michael might be able to help me out here with Board of Zoning Appeals, but I believe they went back through Board of Zoning Appeals, they've been back through the Historic District Commission and are going back through Planning Commission, and Michael's probably gonna help me out with the dates on that. Did they go back through BZA yet? I can't
Yes,
recall.
just to introduce myself, I'm Michael Sullivan, counsel for First Move Properties LLC. So where we are right now in terms of project permitting is that before submitting site plan approval and a request for special exception with Board of Zoning Appeals, the developer needed to purchase 130 first. That occurred at the end of January. After purchasing the property at the end of January, we submitted applications for site plan approval for 130, 132 East Main Street. That was submitted January 17th, I believe, and is now on the docket for March 21st. I believe Planning Commission, pursuant to the city's zoning code, special exceptions, in granting special exceptions, one of the factors that's considered are any comments that are provided by the Planning Commission with respect to the potential special exception that's being requested. So as a result, developer goes in front of the Planning Commission first and then go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Board of Zoning Appeals request for special exception, and just so that I'm being specific with all of you, those special exceptions are for two very particular things. One is an increase in building height that's permitted within the Central Business District or Downtown Central Business District. And the second special exception is for increased density to permit the projected density for the project. Those will be heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals at its meeting in April, which is the first Thursday in April. After that, the next thing to come in terms of project permitting will be an administrative step, and that will be submitting a subdivision plat for re-subdivision. So it will take 130 and 132 and turn it into one parcel. From there, I kind of fade to black, and the developer puts forward its construction plans and the like. I say all that to say that the project timeline remains committed to being open by August of 2020. It will take up the entire footprint, more or less, of 130, 132, and we'll be talking about a 12-story structure. So if you've been following along, the Board of Zoning Appeals granted 2 special exceptions for the project when it related to 132 East Main Street only. Those special exceptions will actually be modified, and because they're being modified, they're more or less being replaced. So the special exception that was granted for 100-foot story building, give or take a few feet, has been increased to a special exception for 126, I believe. And the density, and in fact, I actually have it in my folder with me, I could tell you, but the density has, the increase in density is a reflection on being a larger project, not only in terms of height, but in terms of width. This actually will take it from being just the size, the width of the 130 footprint to the entire width of 130, 132. I think that covers it. Oh, I should also note that there are a couple of what I would refer to as non-critical path items, but are related to development of the project. And those are easements having to do with the construction of the walking bridge and the like, as it relates to the
lighting we
parking
took
garage.
care of, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the lights we took care of. for the-
Yeah, the Delmarva Power
Delmarva
easement we
Power.
took care of. We'll be back at some point with the air rights easement for the walking bridge.
And yes, and for a temporary construction maintenance, even though it seems like it wouldn't need to be reduced to writing because everyone has an understanding, the walking bridge will actually get connected to the parking garage, so the developer will have to have some established right to be actually able to connect it to the parking garage. And I should also note, that is not just a temporary construction easement, that is also a permanent maintenance easement. So it provides that the developer will be permanently charged with maintaining the walking bridge. And finally, in case anyone else is curious, that easement was, I would say, probably the main driving force in determining whether or not the Delmarva Power's electrical lines had to be buried. Samely, whether or not VZW's phone lines needed to be buried, and equally so, whether or not Comcast lines had to be buried. After consulting with Delmarva Power, they were the only utility provider out of the 3 that was going to require that their lines be buried in order to construct the walking bridge as it is currently planned and will remain planned for purposes of developing the project.
Other questions or comments? Just from a perspective, the reason I asked before about the fact that we took care of the first one, the way it reads in the resolution says, refers to 130 and 132,
Okay.
where shouldn't it just
Be
be
130.
130?
Oh, well, 132 is getting taller as well.
Oh,
So the
we
height-
are, so we have to go back?
I feel
What
like.
happens with that? How do we handle
Yeah,
it?
I was thinking we've allocated a certain amount for 132, and now we're adding more for both of them because 132 got taller and we've added 130.
So,
Jack, it's,
We have to modify?
Wasn't-
it's essentially this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Stag,
understand
it's like
physically,
stag.
I understand physically what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there is something in place already for approval of a certain portion of
Yeah.
it.
Right.
yeah.
Do we have to rescind that Or can we, or, well, I just don't know, I just want to make sure we're doing it properly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does state that it's for 130 and 132, but that's really, the configuration of that has changed, correct? They
Well-
owned both properties at the time. The
They
first
own both.
was to.
So the
was-
first one was only for 132, but they'll still need those EDUs, and now this addition is for both 130 and 132. So we did put in the resolution, the previous resolution on line 25 that allocated the previous portion,
Right,
and then,
25.6.
and then noted what was additional.
Is that because the 130 is also having EDUs added to it?
Yes, that one
Okay.
was not included in the previous resolution.
So this is okay the way it's written?
Yeah, I mean, we might want to be more specific and say how many to each building, which I don't think we have that information yet, but,
Well, and I guess they're being,
It'll be
they're
one
ultimately
building.
being
It'll be one
combined,
building.
it
yes.
will be one building.
And the
They're gonna
next step is to
re-subdivide it.
re-subdivide to
Yes.
eliminate the line between them.
Yeah.
So it'll become one.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're good with it, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I think we need to, I mean, the other one doesn't include, this one has both addresses on it, right?
Correct.
All right, I think, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that we add a whereas clause stating how many more additional ones are being added to the one that's already been approved.
We do have that. It's,
I like
Is
it.
it?
yes, let's see. On line 27, we're adding the 31.18 equivalent dwelling units.
That's for both, the increase,
Right.
that's the total.
Oh, you're
increase.
saying
just saying
add for a
specify.
130
That's
and a
what-
132?
Right.
Okay.
I was confused when I read this.
Okay.
That-
Yeah, for
I'm
that
not
Can
that I
reason.
don't
that
get
be
confused.
provided?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, that
What-
sounds like an
Okay.
easy fix if we know what is supposed to be added.
Right,
Okay, 130 and 132 separately.
yeah.
Okay,
Even though it's gonna be combined.
Absolutely.
eventually. It's not combined yet,
sure, absolutely.
okay.
I realize that the resolution controls the three subsections that are provided in the second part of the letter. That gives you a convenient breakdown on exactly where everything stands in terms of the requests for
Yep.
EDUs.
Okay,
Okay,
we have consensus? Mm-hmm. Sure. Good, thank you very much.
thank you.
Ms. Pollard, you
Yes.
stay again. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Okay, this next capacity fee waiver request is for 100 East Main Street, Suite 111. And the applicant is here if there's any questions. So this is for the renovation of this suite into a restaurant and bar, and the request is for a waiver of 14 EDUs. The project does comply with all the necessary requirements for the EDU incentive area. And the equivalent of 14 EDUs at this time is $49,462. I'll note that if both of these requests are approved, then we will have used 154 EDUs to date, so we'll be a little bit more than halfway through this incentive area.
That's what I got, okay. Any questions about this one?
Just 14 EDUs for a restaurant.
Yes.
Is that 7 bathrooms?
No, it's interesting. So we actually looked at some similar restaurants in town. Instead of using the state formula for X number of tables is this many gallons a day, we looked at similar restaurants and what their actual water use is. So restaurants use a lot of water. It's not the restrooms, it's the kitchen. So we did base this off of reality of other restaurants in Salisbury.
We've been overestimating them, right? And then we have to lower it after the
We've done
fact.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the original language of doing the zone. Originally, it was, and if it's in there, let me know. But it was for, heads and beds is what it was. It was actually for, did we have a provision in there for?
It was for redevelopment, new
Okay,
development or
that's fine.
redevelopment, so
Okay.
yes, yep.
I just wondered if they were putting apartments in the top of the building.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Gotta kick Willie.
Not part of this request.
Might need them.
Can I, two other, just while we're on this, at 150 or so left, But at some point, we're gonna need to have that discussion about how would we've got, tons of capacity at the new wastewater treatment plant. But, how we wanna structure that, do we want, different targeted things? Let's also remember that this is not just, urban, downtown core, incentive, but we've also got it throughout the, enterprise zone.
Correct.
Do we wanna create more of a differentiation between those two and have, a higher incentive for the core and lower incentive for, which there already is, but we could differentiate those even more so. So, look for, I think we should have that discussion at some point in the next year or so.
Yeah, we can put it on, let's put it on the pending.
I know it's not pressing, but just.
Okay. Mir, any questions?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay. Anything else? You okay? Everybody okay? All right.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Holland, 1305 South Division Street annexation.
Yes, good afternoon. Recently received a petition for annexation for 1305 South Division Street. This property is approximately a little over 3 acres. They're requesting annexation due to having failing septic. I went out there today just to see what's there, and they have approximately 10 or more small businesses located in there, from Mitchell's Martial Arts to a barber shop, custom tailoring, Delmarva Mediterranean Market, and so forth. Skateland, exactly.
It's called what it is.
That's it.
The cake place.
And the cake place,
And the
yeah.
cake place, yeah, so there's a lot going on there. The next step in this would be to take it to the planning commission to get the property rezoned. It's currently zoned light industrial for Wycomico County. It's contiguous to city corporate lines with the orchards, student housing behind it and alongside of it. And this is pretty much getting the city council to give me the okay to keep moving forward with this.
Questions or comments?
Is it possible to require that Skateland be brought back?
I wish, I wish.
No,
But they still have skate parties out
They
there.
do.
My daughters just went.
I want the 70s disco.
I just miss the
Yeah.
old days, like when it
Me
was.
too.
Yeah, the Salisbury Road.
Yeah, we should do the limbo.
Yeah, yeah.
I used
Not
to-
at my height.
I used to could get under it.
that if you waive the EDU.
I used to get under the limbo.
no.
Again, one other thing, there will be some site improvements coming along with this. Once the property gets annexed, and they'll all be in the annexation agreement. I'll be starting to prepare on that, so.
Good. Okay, consensus. Mir, you all right?
Yep, okay.
Good.
Good.
You got it, thank you. That completes the agenda, and as we will close the work session in a second, but in the meantime, we will have a closed session this afternoon. We're a little early, but we're going to have a closed session. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion for us to enter into closed session.
So, oh, Lord, what did you just say, Jack?
We wanted a motion.
Enter into closed session, you got it.
Yeah.
So Ms. Jackson is,
Drifted.
made the motion, and Ms.
Second.
Blake.
I was at Skateland.
Right?
Still a
That's
skate
right
land.
where I am in my head, getting a piece of
Skate land.
pizza. It's where I am right now.
I hurt myself at Skateland, so I'm not
I
sure I
broke
want
my
to come
knee.
back.
That's where I broke my knee at.
All
My
right,
toe stop came off.
Mir will say goodbye.
All right, have a good evening.
Yeah, take care.
See you, Mayor.
Bye, Mir.
All right, calm, be calm.
We're good.
Don't pick on me.
We're back on.
Oh, it feels great.
All right, we've just come out of closed session, and the purpose of the closed session was to get an update on a legal matter and an update and progress on a development, a proposed development, and negotiating a strategy related to such. For the good of the order, remarks before we close?
Just one discussion that I think, I would request that we consider for future discussion, or maybe we can even put on pending items and propose. We've had discussions recently about the condition of sidewalks along Route 13. We can certainly talk to our friends at State Highway, talk to folks along the corridor, but there's another dynamic here, and that's doesn't just affect sidewalks on Route 13, it affects sidewalks that are in the city too, and the responsibility of property owners elsewhere. And that's when utilities break concrete and asphalt and cut. And just looking at our current code and how it's written, it affords them a tremendous amount of leeway to when they fix it. And I think we should really tighten up the reins on that and have a discussion about how quickly we want them to address it once they. It's just gotten, I think, out of control, and you call and you call and you call and you call, and there's no teeth right now, and I think we got to have a conversation about that.
Ms. Nichols, can we put that on a future work session?
Yes.
Okay.
Under who do we sink our teeth?
You know what?
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? On that note, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.